There was a show on the Discovery Channel called Bushido John. It's about some guy from a minute ago being thrown into the future because he threw hands with his op named Apu. Basically, this show aired like a long time ago, but a few years ago it came back. And since there's a lot that goes down, I'm gonna give you guys a rundown of a couple episodes. So the show starts out in some Asian country, and the Führer is telling his son about how he got Apu out of the way with his knife, so he won't be bothering anyone again. But I guess he didn't do a good enough job, cause Apu pops out the cuts out of nowhere and starts applying pressure on the Führer. And then he gets caught up and tells his wife to send his son on some quest to learn all the jihad techniques of the world. So the son travels to different countries, like in Asia, Africa, and Europe, learning as he goes along. Eventually, when he becomes an adult, he returns to the homeland and finds that his father and the other niggas are being hoed. So he challenges Apu to an Agni Kai, and at first Apu is chilling, but then it turns out the son has a knife, so they throw hands and the son wins. But in order to make things all better, Apu throws the son into the future, so he can be free to do whatever he wants in the meantime. So when he gets to the future, everything is trash, and the niggas call him John. In another episode, we meet some guy from Scotland. Then in another episode, we learn where Apu came from. So back even a longer minute ago, some pagan idols were fighting a black hole or something, then they got it out of the way. But one piece fell to earth and put all the dinosaurs on his shirts. Then it took control of the area it fell in and started growing different shapes. So the Führer at the time felt some type of way and decided to take care of the nonsense before it spread any further. So the Führer and his niggas went to the Black Lagoon and they all got murked. So the Führer throws a stick in the center, and out of it came Apu, who proceeded to do everyone and everything in the vicinity dirty. So then the Führer went to the pagan idols and they made him a new knife, and he came back to catch a fate with Apu and ends up hurting him. So Apu splits into a million different niggas, but they all get murked until the last one gets turned into a tree. But yeah, the show generally consisted of like mainly individual like episodes, which each having its own story. But like I said earlier, the show ended, but then like a million years later, they decided to bring it back for a final season. And while I didn't really watch the first run, so I barely know any of the characters, I watched all of season 5, and it was lit. And I know you guys are saying, well Chief, how can you predict this is the best comeback of all time? Well listen, when I seen the original run, I mean it was okay or something, but it wasn't like the Sistine Chapel. On the other hand, I watched all of season 5 and it was lit. Like seriously one of the best shows on the entire channel, so it's time to go over it. Okay, so 50 years in the future, and John is still trapped, but now he has a beard, and is haunted by the fact that Apu is making it difficult for niggas to move around. At the same time, Apu is in his feelings because John is still alive, so he hires a robot hitman to put him on the news. The hitman throws hands with John, and John manages to put a stop to his nonsense. Also, there are some girls raised by psycho tree women, and they're apparently Apu's children, so of course they want to get John out of the way. So they pull up on him after a long day and start giving him the beats, but he's forced to murk one of them, which makes him hurt because he didn't want to have to put another human in his blunt. So after that, he tries to lay low in the cave to get the ops off his tail, and he bumps with some wall from the last episode, but then he's like whatever, and pisses off, and the Apu girls end up running another fade with him, but this time he starts catching bodies like a sport, until there's only one left, and they both fall in a pit. So John and the survivor are forced to remain together, while they escape someplace, and the survivor wants to murk him the whole time, but eventually realizes it's not worth it or something. Then that Scottish guy pulls up on Apu, with his millions of daughters, but he ends up in the dirt, while his daughters end up looking like bums. Also, John the survivor helped rescue kids that were turned into sleeper agents by some robots. So in the next episode, John is MIA, which makes the survivor go on some journey to find him. And she comes across all the niggas that he helped in the old seasons, who credit him with making their lives slightly less trash. Also, that robot hitman tells Apu that John's knife is missing. So it turns out that John is at the grave ready to put himself in a shirt, but the survivor tries to stop him. So the Reaper Death Seal starts to go after her. So John came to his senses and got them to piss off. So in the next episode, John the survivor go looking for his knife, which he lost after catching a fit with Apu that one time. So while they go up to a mountain to look for it, John decides to go to the spirit world to find it, leaving the survivor to fight off a whole gang and her mother. She wets up the block, while John gets the knife and a shave from the pagan idols. Then in the next episode, some creatures get on John the survivor's ass, and it ends with John doing what needs to be done with the survivor. And in one of the last episodes, John finally meets up with Apu. It starts out with the robot hitman getting his body back after telling Apu that John's knife is MIA. Eventually John pulls up and starts showing hands with Apu, but it turns out the survivor actually literally is his child, so he possesses her and makes her catch a fade with John, who doesn't want to give her the beats. So Apu fucks over John, and it looks like he caught a W, and right before he makes the survivor get him out of the way, a bunch of niggas start getting on Apu's ass, and it turns out the Scottish guy has been revived, and he reunites with John. But Apu gets him out of the paint, while John convinces the survivor that Apu is an op, so the survivor breaks free from the control and starts throwing hands with Apu, and sends John back in time to murk Apu, so that none of this nonsense ever happens in the first place. So he does that, and they make him the Führer, but right before he can marry the survivor, she ends up becoming a pack because she's Apu's daughter, and Apu is on the news. The series ends with John finally being able to chill. Overall, it was pretty lit. From what I've seen, the last season is the best one, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of this show. And also, just know that like half the niggas in this show were weirdos. Okay guys, make sure that when you subscribe you hit the notification button, because that lets you know whenever I make a new video, and as always, thanks for watching.